everyone, welcome back. Let's cook and talk about crime stories. Today's video is a little different because I'm in the kitchen and today we are making chicken curry for my partner. Now I actually love cooking. It's something I genuinely enjoy and I'm pretty comfortable in the kitchen. But Indian food is a whole different experience for me. There's so much history, the technique, the balance that goes into it. It's not just about throwing spices together, it's about understanding how everything works together. The timing, the flavors, the way the spices build on each other. Like it's honestly an art. So today I'm stepping aside my usual cooking routine and trying to make a chicken curry. I'm hoping I can do justice and most importantly hoping my partner enjoys it. While I'm cooking, I thought I'd share a story with you because this past few days I've been really so invested to this kind of stories. Ever since before, I've always found these crime stories very interesting. But not because the tragedy itself. What really catches my attention is the process of understanding what happened. I find it fascinating like how investigators take different pieces of information, like from interviews, evidence, timelines, and small details that people might overlook, and slowly put everything together to find the truth. But I also think that it's important to remember that behind every headline and every story, there are real people. There are families, friends, and loved ones who are affected forever. For me, sharing these stories is about understanding what happened, learning how investigations work, and remembering the people at the center of these cases. So today, we're talking about the case of Laci Peterson. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that this story involves real people. A real lost and a family that went through something unimaginable. So I've been following this story since last week, and right now, I'll be focusing on the confirmed facts and a big respect towards those people who are involved. So the story of Laci Peterson is one of the most widely known criminal cases in the United States. It began as a missing person investigation but eventually became a murder case that received a nationwide attention. She was just around my age at the time. She was 27 and she lived with her husband Scott Peterson in Modesto, California. She was 8 months pregnant and it was a boy and they planned to name him Connor. Friends and family describe Laci as warm, very outgoing, and excited to become a mother. But everything changed. So on the morning of December 24th, 2002, and yes, it was a Christmas Eve, Scott Peterson said he left their home to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina in San Francisco Bay. According to Scott, Laci stayed home and planned to spend the day walking their dog and preparing for the holidays. And later that afternoon, Scott returned home and said Laci was gone. Their dog had been found wandering the neighborhood with its leash still attached, but there was no sign of Laci. So the concern quickly grew because disappearing without telling anyone was unlike her. The family members contacted the police and a large search effort began almost immediately. Volunteers also searched parks, neighborhoods, and nearby areas. Also, missing person flyers were distributed throughout the community. And because it was so serious, the story quickly attracted the national media attention. As detectives investigated, they naturally interviewed the people closest to Laci, including Scott. So during the investigation, police discovered that Scott had been having an affair with a woman named Amber Frey. So this mistress, Amber, later told the investigator that she's been unaware of Scott was married. Oh, it's not a shock, unlike other mistress, they always tell that. And she cooperated with the law enforcement after learning about Laci's disappearance. And here's the crazy part. Another detail drew significant attention. Scott had reportedly told Amber before Laci disappeared that he had lost his wife and that it would be his first Christmas without her. Then after this came out, Scott later said that he had lied to Amber because about his marital status and denied that those statements were connected to Laci's disappearance. So after this shocking revelations, investigators continued gathering evidence. They examined Scott's movements on Christmas Eve and even searched the Petersons' home, reviewed the phone records, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed the physical evidence. Although there is no direct eyewitnesses of confession linked to Scott to the crime, still the prosecutors argued that combination of the circumstantial evidence pointed to him. So on April 13, 2003, nearly 4 months after Laci disappeared, The remains of the late-term male fetus were discovered along the shoreline of San Francisco Bay near Richmond, California. And the following day, the remains of a woman's body were found nearby as well. They were later identified as Laci Peterson and her unborn son, Connor. The location where the bodies were found became a major point in the investigation because it was close to the area where Scott said that he had gone fishing on the day Lassie disappeared. And on April 18, 2003, Scott Peterson was arrested near a golf course in La Jolla, California. Prosecutors said that he appeared to be preparing to flee. Bye-bye, while the defense disputed that interpretation. He was charged with the 2 counts of murder, one for Lassie and one for Connor. And then Scott's trial began in 2004 after being moved to Redwood City due to the extensive publicity surrounding the case. So during the trial, the prosecutors argued that Scott had murdered Lassie to escape the responsibilities of marriage and impending the fatherhood. They have also presented evidence about his affair, his statements to Amber Frey, his fishing trip, and the discovery of the bodies. They acknowledged that there was no single piece of direct forensic evidence providing the crime, but argued that the circumstantial evidence taken together, it established his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. On the other hand, the defense argued that the prosecution case relied on the assumptions rather than proof. Also, Scott's attorney suggested that Lassie may have encountered someone else after Scott left the house and argued there was no reasonable doubt about what had happened. So after months of testimony, the jury deliberated for several days. On November 12, 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for the death of Laci Peterson and a second-degree murder for the death of Connor Peterson. He was sentenced to death in 2005. Years later after that, Scott appealed his conviction and sentence. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned his death sentence because of the issues related to the jury selection during the penalty phase of the trial. However, the court upheld his murder convictions. In 2021, he was resentenced again to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case continues to be discussed because it relied largely on circumstantial evidence, and the generated intense media coverage and also the prompted conversation about how high-profile criminals' investigations are covered by the press. Despite the continued public interest and legal appeals, Scott Peterson remains convicted of the murders of Laci Peterson and the unborn son Connor. Beyond the headlines and the courtroom proceedings, the case is remembered because a young woman and her unborn child lost their lives. For Lassie's family and loved ones, the story has never simply about the famous trial. It has always been about the loss of Lassie and Connor. And that was the story of Laci Peterson. I just want to share my thoughts of the story. So when the investigators revealed that Scott had been having an affair, I won't lie, my heart dropped. I know this is a crime story and having an affair doesn't automatically mean that someone is capable of murder, because those are two different things. But at the same time, I feel like there's so many true crime cases where this pattern of lies like secret relationships, double lives, and betrayal, it's most likely the affair becomes the first domino and everything else starts falling after that. And every time I hear that part of a case, like, I just think, why? Is it maybe it's because infidelity is something that always been really personal to me? You know, growing up, I saw firsthand how affairs can affect a family. I saw the arguments, the broken trust, and the emotional damage, and how something one person chooses to do can leave the scars on everyone around them. That really stayed with me. So whenever I hear that someone was secretly seeing someone else, I don't just think, oh, that's gossip. I immediately think about the people who are going to get hurt. Sometimes my friends ask me, like, what would you do if your future husband cheated on you? And honestly, I don't know what to answer. But part of me likes to think like I'd be calm, collected, and mature. But being realistic, I probably have an entire movie playing inside my head. I'd be imagining myself giving the most dramatic speech ever delivered, like a full award show performance. I would rehearse it in the shower, Like I would win imaginary arguments while washing the dishes. So by the end of the day, I have accepted an imaginary Oscar for my breakup monologue. And I probably have a whole PowerPoint presentation titled Exhibit A, the audacity. The slide 1 will be the receipt, then the slide 2 will be the timestamps, the slide 3 explain yourself. And don't even get me started if someone expected me to be the cool or understanding person. Absolutely not. I'd be thinking, you really look at your peaceful life and thought you know what this needs? Chaos? Now, before anyone takes me seriously, no, I wouldn't go after the other woman or try to ruin anyone's life. Life is a funny way of holding people accountable on its own. And I rather protect my own peace than spend my energy seeking revenge. I mean, I'd be heartbroken. I would probably cry. I'll call my friends. I overanalyze every conversation we'd ever had. I'd convince myself that I miss 1,000 times. Then eventually, I'd pick up myself up and move on. Because at the end of the day, if someone chooses to betray your trust, that says far more about their character than yours. I think that's why this detail in Laci's case affected me so much. It wasn't just another fact in the investigation. It reminded me of how fragile trust can be and how quickly someone's choices can change another person's life forever. For me, loyalty isn't just important, it's everything. Like, once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild, and maybe that's why stories involving betrayal always stays with me longer after I've finished reading about the case. So you might be wondering, where does the case stand today? As of now, Scott Peterson remains convicted of the murders of Laci Peterson and their unborn son, Connor. So he is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, as I told earlier. There were no changes until now, although the Los Angeles Innocence Project has taken on his case and argues that new evidence supports his claim of innocence. A California judge as well denied his latest petition in April 2026. His legal team has said that they plan to appeal, so while the legal fight continues, his convictions remain in place. So I just want to say this to all the males out in the world, like even females, because it's not just man, also women attempt to have such kind of affair. Like these cases always leave us thinking about how important honesty and loyalty is in a relationship. So for the people out there and for myself, if you are no longer happy, if you've fallen out of love, or if you've met someone else, as painful as it is, have the difficult conversation and the relationship with honesty and respect before bringing someone else into the picture. Cheating doesn't just break trust, it can leave emotional scars that last for years. So I've seen how infidelity affects families, as I've told you earlier, and it's something I hope no one has to experience. And if you're the person being betrayed, please remember this. Someone else's decision to be unfaithful is not a reflection of your worth. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who chooses you every single day. This case is also a reminder that not to ignore red flags or difficult conversation just because they are uncomfortable. Healthy relationships are built on communication, trust, and respect, not secrets. This lesson also applies to myself because sometimes if I'm just too much emotional, I forget about these things. So it's like, hey, wake up, you're talking about this, also apply this to your life. It's like that. Most importantly, it's worth remembering that while affairs can cause deep emotional pain, the overwhelming majority of people who are unfaithful do not go on to commit violent crimes. The tragedy in this case was the result of an alleged homicide, not simply infidelity. Those are very different things. Life is too short to stay in a relationship filled with lies. So if something isn't working, just leave with honesty instead of causing more pain. Sometimes walking away is the bravest and kindest choice for everyone involved. And now that's the story of Laci Peterson. Now it's time to go back on what we are doing. Let's check on the chicken curry because I've been thinking about it the entire time as well. I don't know how to describe it to you anymore because I was really still into the story up until now. But going back to what we are doing, honestly, making this was such a fun challenge because even though I love cooking, trying a completely different cuisine reminds me that there's always something new to learn. Food is one of those things that connects people. Every dish has a story, a culture, and a little piece of someone's home in it. And I think that's what I enjoy most about cooking. It's not just about making something to eat, it's about creating a moment for someone you care about. So thank you so much, guys, for spending this time with me today. Whether you came for the cooking, the story, or just wanted some background noise while you did your own thing, I really appreciate you being here. And if you enjoy this kind of cozy storytelling video, let me know what you'd like to see next. I'll see you on the next one. Bye!